prophet Isaiah says, "Their lips worshipped me, but their hearts were far from me." And then we hear from the letter of St. James, to be doers of the word and not hearers only. And this past week I reflected on a lot about that in my life and my own experience. And I think being doers of the word means those times that we truly offer love, mercy, and compassion to those most in need. And that brought me back to my first year in the seminary down in Baltimore. I was assigned to a place called the Franciscan Center in inner city Baltimore. And it was a soup kitchen for people that were homeless or found themselves without a home to come and have a hot meal. They'd also have an outreach center for them to pick up some clothes. They had a career center to help them put together a resume to get their lives back on track so they can move forward. And myself and one other seminarian were assigned there, and our only job was to get there at 10 o'clock, leave at 2 o'clock, and just move from table to table and sit with homeless people and get into conversation to learn their story. And just to be there to talk. We dressed in a polo shirt and khakis, and that was our only job. And I remember I was very scared to enter into that because, again, I'd never done that before. So I remember probably one of the first conversations I had. Me and the seminarian would move from table to table together to kind of give each other moral support as we did this because it was a little bit difficult. But the first conversation that we had together was a gentleman who was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. It was one of those motorized ones so he can get around the city. But he found himself homeless because he'd been evicted from his apartment. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I think he lost his dog the previous week, and he's lost all the members of the family. I mean, he was utterly alone. And after hearing his story, of course, I chime in to say something, and I couldn't think of what to say. And what came out of my mouth was, "Well, that's great." The seminarian next to me is kicking me like that was the dumbest thing you possibly said, and it was. I didn't know what to say. That was the first time I'd entered into a conversation of having to show love, mercy, and compassion. I failed miserably. And I said, "Now I'm supposed to be studying for the priesthood." Yeah, good luck with that. But maybe while I was preparing for this homily, I came across another story. And this wasn't me. This was just an article that was written by a gentleman that talked about his journey of how he became compassionate. He said one day him and his wife were at a restaurant and saw a father with his 3 little kids, and the little kids were causing a lot of noise, and he walked up to the dad and said, "Excuse me, sir, please control your children." And he said that the gentleman looked at him. He says, "Well, they just lost their mother about an hour ago. And yes, they're running around, they're trying to find a way to deal with it, and so am I." And he said from that moment, he realized what a jerk he was. He took a step back and he said, "I entered into every conversation from that point on, thinking that anybody I get in conversation with, probably half of them or even more, have some kind of crisis going on in their life, and I need to be a person of a minister to them, and not a person of judgment to them." I think entering into conversations and entering into our own human relationships in that way, again, teach us about what being doers of the word is, and not just hearers only. We're called to be doers. Now we're going back into the school year. We're going back into the fall, and this is a busy time of year. We have deadlines. We have papers due. We have things going on at work. And again, it's all about us and completing deadlines. We can get so insulated into ourselves. How often have we put ourselves into a situation where we're tested to try to be compassionate to somebody? And compassion, the definition for that is entering into somebody else's chaos. How often do we remove ourselves from our own stuff and insert ourselves into somebody else's life? And yes, we might fail miserably at first, but that's all part of the process. I might have been willing to move one level from that, but I think it might be a level in a good direction. Through our entire lives, we're learning to be more loving and more compassionate. So our challenge as a community is this fall, with the busyness of life, how are we going to remove ourselves to enter into learning to love as he loves, to be compassionate as he's compassionate, as all forgiving as he is all forgiving. Yes, it's a challenge, but he has given us the vehicle of the church. He has given us his sacraments to give us that strength and courage to do just that.